Good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Tuesday Morning Music and Tea. This is co-presented with ASU Care and the ASU School of Music, and we're so excited to get the program started today. You are going to be hearing music from the ASU Guitar Studio, students of Ji Yeon Kim, and they have a very special program put together that will be starting in just a moment. We're going to tell you about a couple of upcoming shows this week in our Beam series, which is Thursday at 7 p.m., very special acoustic performance from Promise to Myself. They've just signed with Sony the Orchard. They're kind of a pop punk, pop sound band. There's a couple of ASU students in there, and we're so excited that we've been able to book them for the Beam series. We hope you'll tune into that as you're tuning in now. You can watch it on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. On our Facebook Live or our Twitch. And these programs stay archived, so if you can't tune in live, we hope you'll come and check out all the great shows we've done. Beams the following week on Thursday, December 10th. This is a great one. We saw Matea recommended to us by Brian Lopez, who played the Beam series earlier. They were booked to play a special series with Kennedy Center. She's a producer, a vocalist, and then she busts out the trumpet out of nowhere and just blends it all together for a really interesting alternative R&B electronic sound. She's from Tucson, and we hope you'll tune in. She'll be beaming in from the Dust and Stone recording studio run by Frank Bear. We're going to get started with the three students of Ji Yeon Kim that are in the building today. We are broadcasting live from a very empty ASU Care Cultural Center. We miss doing these shows in person, but we're so happy we can do these virtually. And we're going to hand it over now to ASU Guitar Studio. Enjoy.
Hi, my name is Matthew Brill, and I'll be playing a Haitian piece called Nan Fan Bois by the Haitian composer Amos Colañez. So I just wanted to take the opportunity right now just to talk about the background of the piece a little bit. So this piece is actually a tribute to a earlier work by a Haitian composer named Franz Cassis. And that piece was called Lavana You, and it was actually uses the same melody that you hear in the main section of this piece, and it's actually based off a traditional Haitian folk tune. It's basically kind of used as well, it's like part of a voodoo ritual, and so he derived the tune from that and kind of based it off that traditional folk tune. And the reason I chose to play this piece today is because this past year I've really been focusing on, in my repertoire, on playing music by artists of color, particularly black composers. This is an issue that's personally important for me because I'm black, and something I've felt in the classical guitar world is that we are rather underrepresented, and I wanted to use the repertoire that I choose to play as an opportunity to help feature more black composers. And it's actually something that I'm going to be doing, making the central focus of my junior and my senior recitals this year. I'm going to be doing all programs by people of color for both my upcoming recitals. And I wanted to focus on highlighting a number of different artists, both from like places in the Caribbean, such as Haiti and Cuba, as well as places in South America, Europe, and even here in the United States. And so that's really what I wanted to make the main focus of my recital. I'm also going to be playing some pieces by Franz Cassius, as well as a piece by Herman Snyders from Suriname, some works by Scott Joplin, as well as some other wonderful composers that I've discovered all across the world this past year. And then I would love to take some questions right now in the comment section. I don't see it on the screen. Oh, cool, now it's up. So, I'm just gonna do this. This will be easier. So, for the composer of the first piece, his name was Amos Colañez. He was born in 1953 in Haiti, and I believe he currently still lives there. He is still alive, and he is a teacher and as well as a composer, and he's composed many other works for guitar and like the traditional like style of Haitian music. And then for the next question, it was, what's the percussive sound coming from? How did you find these composers? So for the percussive sound, it's basically like kind of like a snare drum technique. What you do is you tuck one of the strings over the other one on the bottom steel strings, and basically you hit the strings together, and by having the strings touch each other, that cancels out like the natural like pitch sound you get, and instead it creates like that percussive sound that you get. And then as for how did I find these composers, basically I believe I found Amos Colañez. I found him while doing some research on Spotify. I just wanted to find like a resource for like how to find like different composers that might not get a lot of exposure. So I believe I was just going through different playlists on Spotify, and eventually I stumbled upon him. And then from there, I started to look up other composers. I honestly did like a lot of like, basically like Google Foo. Like I basically started typing in like composers from Haiti and stuff like that until I found something. I believe my instructor for Franz Cassius my instructor Gigi told me about him just because the piece Nan Fun Ball was dedicated to him, and so she's told me, all that he's also a famous guitarist, and so she started to turn me on to him. And like I said, a lot of other stuff is I also just did Google. There's actually a lot of really great resources online you can find to look up and find out more about artists of color in the guitar world. You can also, honestly, I just spend a lot of time going on Wikipedia as well. Like you can go and there's like a whole list that says like classical guitarists from whatever country, from like Venezuela, Suriname, United States, and I kind of did it like just the old-fashioned way where I just like cycled through and just like clicked on every composer I could find. And I also made a lot of the composers I've actually learned about, they're actually people that are still with us and alive. And so some of them I actually honestly just found through connections on Facebook or social media. I started like looking up people on social media, connections I can make, and that's how I was able to find out some more about these people. So for my junior and senior recital, I'll be doing that this year at ASU. It's going to be streamed live through the ASU music department. I believe it's like they put up a YouTube video on their Herberger music program website, and that's how I can find it. And then for how you can find me, I am on Instagram, so my name under there, it's just Matthew Briel, Briel. I'm also on Facebook under the same name as well. Okay, cool. Any other questions? There's no other questions. I'm going to turn it over to the next performer right now.
Hello. My name is Alicia Castillo. So excited to be here today. Thank you for everyone who's listening out there. So I'm a student in the ASU School of Music. I am a composition major, but I also perform and take lessons with the Guitar Studio as well. So thank you to Gigi for having us today as well. So the pieces I'm going to be playing are actually original ones that I wrote. So the suite is called the Solitude Suite. It's a set of 3 pieces, and the first is called Evenfall, the second is called Solitude, and the third is called Daybreak. So I wrote actually all of these pieces this year, and actually during the like COVID quarantine time, the like earlier part of it. So it was kind of, they started as just kind of basic compositional exercises for me. I love writing guitar works in addition to all of the other works I do, such as orchestral, vocal work, chamber work. But guitar work is always my personal favorite to work on and write for. So these pieces are kind of a reflection of my time, my experiences, and I'm sure many other experiences, with this quarantine and, COVID, like experience we're all going through. And the suite also kind of follows, like stages of the day as well. So the first one, Evenfall, is a lot more upbeat, light, very nice. And then it leads into the next piece, Solitude, which is a little bit darker, more of a reflective piece, kind of when you're on your own, especially during the night. And then the third piece, Daybreak, is just a little bit more hopeful, kind of coming out of that darkness. So I was hoping to capture that. So thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoy. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to answer some questions now. So if anyone has some questions, feel free to jump in. So first question, did your work process change during the quarantine time, or is it similar? I think during quarantine time, even though I had essentially more time to compose, I don't know, it was, I think, kind of hard being physically stuck in one place as almost everyone was. That made it kind of hard to compose at times and just feeling stuck. But eventually, I would just try and just make myself get out of it by doing just kind of short compositional exercises. So like from these pieces, that's actually how they all started, just as kind of what can I do with to make, for writing for guitar, make some chords lead to each other like really easily. So it just started as kind of compositional exercises. And then I was like, oh, you know, this can go somewhere. So it was really exciting to kind of develop it more and eventually figure out how they could all connect to each other and put them into a whole suite. Is the sheet music available? It's not online yet. I actually just finished, actually this past weekend, fully getting everything notated out, because before it was just sketches on manuscript paper since I was the only one kind of playing through them. But I am working on getting my website together currently, and all of my scores will be available on there. So it'll be up live within the next week. It'll be aliciacastillomusic.com. So the next question, do you compose away from the guitar or on the guitar or another instrument? So it kind of depends what I'm working on. So for guitar music, interestingly enough, I actually like to start at the piano sometimes, because I think sometimes for myself, I can get stuck on the guitar and just like, I'm like, it has to be able to work before trying out possibilities. So sometimes I like to go to the piano first for guitar music and start there and write whatever I want, and then go to the guitar and make sure it kind of can work under the hands. But for all my other writing, such as orchestral, vocal, and chamber, I definitely start from the piano, and if I'm just getting stuck there, I'll always kind of come back to my home base, which is the guitar, for some inspiration. Next question. So harmonies are so rich. How did you come up with these harmonies? So I actually studied jazz lessons last semester with Jeff Libman, who's head of the jazz guitar department at ASU. And so these were all written during and after my lessons with him. So I was very, very inspired by the jazz harmonies and a lot of the stuff we were working on. So we worked a lot on chord melodies, and then also for myself, taking a lead sheet and arranging a chord melody out of it. So we did a lot of work with Wes Montgomery transcriptions, and I think just a lot of the jazz harmonies that we worked with. It was just very inspiring to me, and I like to incorporate a lot of the jazz harmonies and everything into my own music, but especially guitar, since I do consider myself both classical and jazz guitarist, in addition to like singer-songwriter projects I work on outside of school. An interesting question, is there an artist, living or dead, that I would like to duet with? Oh man. Wow, there's so many choices. So another, a guitarist composer who really inspires my own writing. Actually, a lot of the pieces I worked on over the summer and last semester in the spring is Sergio Assad. His guitar music it's so expansive. It also has a lot of rich harmony, so I'm definitely inspired by his music. And I also love to do score studying, so pull out his scores, play through them, and figure out why they work, what he's doing with different themes, and just how they fit under the hands and the guitar. So a collaboration with him would be, that's like a dream. But so his music definitely inspires me, and a lot of his chordal harmony is just very rich as well. So I think I take a lot of influence and inspiration from that as well. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for listening, and I'm gonna turn it over to the next performer. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bill White. I'll be playing a piece called The Legend of Hagoromo by Keigo Fuji, a Japanese composer. Japanese composers are kind of a rare breed in classical music. There's kind of one that overshadows everybody, being Toru Takemitsu. And then there's another guy kind of under that, Takashi Yoshimatsu is probably the second. And then there's pieces that pop up every now and then, but not a lot of big names in Japanese music. And, I think that's a shame because there's a lot of interesting things happening over there, especially in the guitar world. A lot of Japanese composers seem to gravitate toward the guitar. And, my family has some Japanese origins in it, so I'm always looking for these things to kind of bring out and present to the audience. So this piece is based on a Japanese legend, and I'll kind of just go through that real quick here. The legend tells of a fisherman heading up to a lake where he sees a heavenly maiden descend wearing a hagoromo, which is a kind of a clothing made of feathers that allows them to fly. She comes down while she's bathing. The fisherman steals the hagoromo because he's fallen in love with her and hides it. The maiden, being stuck on Earth now, has no choice but to, converse with the mortal. So they fall in love eventually. And they have a son, and she's happy, but she's always sad that she can never return to heaven. Later, she hears her son singing a lullaby, which tells of where the fisherman hid the hagoromo. She goes and takes it, flies back to heaven. She looks back, she's sad. She sees her son that she's leaving behind, all that. And then the fisherman plants a moonflower seed that the maiden gave him, and it grows a giant beanstalk, and he climbs up to heaven to live with her. I'm not sure what the moral of the story there is, but that's the story that this piece is based on. So this is Legend of Hagoromo by Keigo Fuji. Get comfortable. This is a 16-minute piece, kind of a tour de force, a lot of stuff happening. So enjoy. got some questions. Mayan asks, what is my connection to Japan and how did I find the composers? My grandmother is Japanese. My mother was also born there, but she's only half Japanese, so I get the quarter. But I have a ton of family over there, and I identify with that culture. And how did I find the composers? That's an interesting one. I heard of Fuji first through, I just picked up the name through Bill Cannongeiser, the guitarist, and, did some Googling and found this piece. And I was like, oh man, I got to learn that piece. It was just a incredible thing, just looking at it and seeing it for the first time. It was like, oh my God, how could people not play this thing? Next question is, what were the difficulties learning this piece? What's my process on memorizing such a long, expansive piece? So difficulties, it's extremely taxing on the right hand. So I had to do a ton of, just exercises with that, making sure I'm completely relaxed in the right hand. I think that was the biggest hurdle for me with this guy. And on memorizing such a long, expansive piece, I just had to break it up into sections and be like, okay, this is the tremolo section, this is the dance section, this is etc. And then I really worked on those like in sections, and then I isolated the transitions between sections. It's like, okay, I need to memorize transitioning from tremolo back into dance. And I did that over and over and that kind of thing. Also, just generally in memorization, I try to memorize things in solfege so that I'm not just like doing muscle memory or even just, audio memory. I'm trying my best to memorize things in solfege. And my thoughts on the composition, I already kind of touched on that, but I think it's absolutely amazing. It's there's so many different techniques, so many different timbres thrown onto this that are just, crazy and out there and really pushing the sound of the guitar and what it's capable of. And that just makes me really, really excited as a guitarist. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Students of Ji Yeon Kim, that was so wonderful. You have just been tuned in to the students in the ASU Guitar Studio. We love this series because we always get to have a nice conversation with the artist. Your questions really give us a lot to think and talk about, and really love getting to have our artists explain how they found works and their connection to it. It helps us understand them as performers, and we just love that aspect of this series. We're going to tell you about our show this week for the Beam series. That's Thursday, December 3rd at 7 p.m. We're going to have the pop rock band Promise to Myself performing a very special acoustic set. The following week, again, this performer is just so special. You can search her performance for the Kennedy Center virtual series featuring Arizona artists. She played with Brian Lopez. And this is Matea. She's a wonderful alternative R&B performer, great vocals, amazing on the trumpet, just a really, really fantastic performer. Now, it is Giving Tuesday, so it wouldn't be right for us not to mention that we are providing paid performance opportunities for artists and have been doing so since the pandemic hit. Our evening performances are all paid gigs for artists. We've kept our full-time staff employed, and all of that costs money. We're trying to bounce back and come back with our in-person shows with limited capacity and enhanced safety protocols starting in February. We want to stick by you and connect communities by providing programming. We wanted to give some type of regularity in our programming despite all the uncertainty in the world. So we've been doing our Beam series weekly, our Gather Storytelling series monthly, and all of that costs money. We've been really getting by on such a thin budget. So anyone that's able to give, we do recommend that you visit asukerr.com, click that Give Now button. If you've enjoyed any of our programs, or if you want to go back and see all of our wonderful programs that are still archived on our YouTube channel and our Facebook Live section, please go do that. And if you're motivated to support ASU Care, we love you, we appreciate it, and definitely appreciate you tuning in and for your support, questions, and thoughtfulness today and at all of our programs. We hope you enjoy the rest of your week. We appreciate you. Thanks so much for tuning in.